Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my late ex-husband's kids money, especially after they tried suing me? My late ex-husband and I had 3 kids together. We divorced because he had mental health issues that he refused to seek help for. He remarried a woman almost immediately after, and they divorced as well after they had 2 young kids together. 2 divorces in 5-year span prompted him to finally get help, and he became a much better person, and we reestablished a close friendship. When he got sick, could no longer work, and his medical bills were bankrupting him, I offered for him to live with me and our kids. When he passed, I established Social Security for my kids and moved on with my life, and I assumed that she did the same. The kids are now all over 18. 3 years ago, I got a court summons. His 2 other kids decided that their father had remarried me, and I stole all his money for myself/my kids. I was basically just the devil, and they were going to get what they were owed. This was completely wrong. I never remarried my ex. While we lived together as a family for the past almost 6 years, it was not even a little romantic, and it would have been stupid to remarry him. His medical bills were insane. There was no money for any of the kids, because he had no money. I was fine to have his kids come over, which was usually 50-50 aside from years 2 and 6, but I never pretended to be a parent to them. The reason there's some money now is because I was able to establish a good career, and my current husband was established when we met. I tried to talk to them, but they wouldn't listen and insisted on going before a judge. During the hearing, when records were pulled out, they switched to the argument that my ex acted as a stay-at-home parent for me, which allowed me to grow my career. This didn't work, and their case was dismissed. Now, they're not only still low income, but they have racked up the lawyer's fee. They're now crying to anyone that will listen about how evil I am to bankrupt teenagers, and how they're even more unable to go to college because I won't be fair. Some of our mutual relatives are now saying that I should care more about these kids, because they were basically my stepkids even if not by law, and that a family isn't that black and white. Now for the top comments. Not they how. They played dirty and now they are paying for it. Not your problem. Crappy actions meet crappy consequences. I like to say good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from bad decisions. Not they how. And clearly, they were either misleading the lawyer, this case seems unwinnable, or the lawyer was hoping you would settle. Either way, they're not your problem. The lawyer got paid. He probably told them the chances are low, but why should he try to convince them not to pay him a lot of money? Probably one of those unethical lawyers taking advantage of fatherless teens full of rage, promising a settlement if they put enough pressure on dad's ex-wife because the lawyer gets paid regardless. Not the a-hole. There's clearly not ever going to be a way for you to alter their perspective on this. I am sure they legitimately feel that you somehow were unfair to them in this complex situation. However, that's on them, not you. If they had to be caretakers for their dying father, their burden would have been worse. They can join the legions of people who get zero financial resources from their parents and make their own way. You were an amazing person for helping your ex, and you owe the kids he created after your relationship was dissolved nothing. Plus, the kids had their own mother. It sounds like at the time of his passing, those kids might have been under 18. If their mom didn't go through the steps with Social Security for them to receive a portion of their dad's death benefit, well, tough. It sounds like the dad might have had 50-50 shared parenting with wife too, so there might not have been a child support order in place. Again, that's on wife too to explain to her kids, but I wouldn't be surprised if those kids heard a lot of "your dad is a deadbeat," even if support wasn't warranted in the case. These kids might be working from a baseline like, "Dad doesn't pay." Hope he will never know. Funny, I bet that those kiddos didn't step in as his heirs to settle any outstanding debts he had, if there were any. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my stepchildren's college? I, 49, have 2 stepchildren, Leo, 19 male, and Adam, 17 male. I entered their lives when they were 7 and 5, and despite my efforts, they never warmed up to me. I wasn't trying to be their mom, but just another loving parental figure. They told their dad how much they didn't like me when told them that we were engaged, and told my husband that they didn't want him to get married. Their dad reassured them that they would always be a big part of his life, and ask them to give me a chance. We even went to their mother for help, but she refused. They refused to come to the wedding and wouldn't spend the holidays with their dad if I was there. I was hurt over it for a very long time, but eventually it grew to accept that this is how things were going to be, and just tried to focus on my own children. Although my husband always held out hope that one day we could all be one big happy blended family. Tragically, my husband passed away in an accident. It was hard, and after the funeral, Leo and Adam never reached out to us again. They barely acknowledged their half-siblings, 9 male and 9 female, at family events with my husband's side of the family, and I was sad for them. Fast forward to now, and my niece, sister-in-law's daughter, is going to college, and I agreed to give her $30,000 after sophomore year. My husband loved his sister and niece, so I was more than happy to do it. Word got back to Leo and Adam, and they learned that their father had a huge life insurance policy that I was the sole beneficiary of. Plus, my side business is now turning over a sizable profit. They reached out to me angry that I was hoarding their father's money and threatening to sue if I didn't tell them how much I got and get half. I was upset, but calmly explained to them that 1, life insurance isn't the same as an inheritance, so they had no legal claim to it. 2, when I initially received the payout, I gave some to their mom to hold on to them until they were of age. They didn't believe me until I sent them proof, and apparently their mom used the money to cover living costs and there was nothing left for them. Since I used some of the insurance money to fund my business, mother-in-law is asking me to pay for Leo and Adam to go to school, but I don't want to. They literally haven't spoken to me in years, and the first time they do is to demand money? Mother-in-law asked me to think of my own children, and how Leo and Adam may take out their resentment towards me on them. If that's the case, then I don't care to foster a relationship between them. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. I keep saying this, so I'll add it in here. 1, the life insurance policy was through my husband's job, and I was automatically named. My husband could have changed it, but didn't get around to it. 2, while my stepchildren were never named in the policy, there was always an understanding between us that I would give up some of the money to help Leo and Adam out, which is why I gave it to their mom. 3, no, there wasn't an official will, but it was my husband's intention to make one once he turned 60, but he died in his late 40s. 4, as for survivor's benefits, I can't say if Leo and Adam got some, since their mom and them never talked to me, and I never received anything in the mail about it. I'm guessing their mom took the money I gave her, and didn't think that she would need anything else. Edited to add. Again, keep saying this as well, so I'll comment here. 1, while I don't feel comfortable giving the exact amount, I will say that I gave their mother around 40% of the overall policy. It's the same amount that I saved for my children, while keeping 20% for myself as a spouse. Part of my 20% is what I used to start my business. 2, I didn't put the money into a trust for them because I trusted that their mom would do what she thought was best for them, and didn't bother to keep tabs on it. 3, up until they called me, I didn't know my stepchildren didn't have money for college. 4, neither my husband or I had wills at the time, because we thought we were both too young for those. But since his passing, I have made one for myself. 5, my stepchildren are welcome to try, but I doubt that they can sue me for anything because most of my husband's savings went to paying funeral costs and any debts he had prior to his death. The house we lived in was a gift from my side of the family with the condition that it would be solely in my name. 6, I also love sister-in-law's daughter and have a relationship with her, which is one of the reasons why I'll be giving her $30,000. It won't take care of all her expenses, but it is a good start. Not today, Hall. Do not let the people around you guilt you into spending the life insurance money, plus your hard-earned cash on ungrateful children. You owe them nothing. Mother-in-law asked me to think of my own children, and how Leo and Adam may take out their resentment towards me on them. They already don't even acknowledge their half-siblings. There's nothing more for them to resent. The gall of that woman. Like she doesn't have a front row seat to how her eldest grandkids treat their young siblings. Mother-in-law can pay for those 2 jerks. Leave Opie alone. Mother-in-law can also take it up with her son's first wife. Not today, Hall. Leo and Adam are already resenting their half-siblings. Plus, you already gave money to their mother for them, but she used it all. Your money, your choice. You owe them nothing. Yeah, it's their mother they need to be taking this up with, but probably realize it's all gone, and so are going to try and humbug off Opie. I've noticed a lot of the time, in-laws and similar relatives believe anything their relative contributed to the household was his/hers exclusively, but anything the spouse contributed or was given is marital property. I am also sure if Opie had put it in a trust for the kids and her as trustee, they would have accused her of micromanagement, or basically wouldn't trust her to keep her word. Not an a-hole. They haven't spoken to you in years. They barely acknowledge they have siblings. You literally gave their mom money for them. Why would they think, and they are ridiculous to think, they are entitled to more money for college? Next story. Am I the a-hole for not splitting money from my son's college fund to give to his stepsister? My stepdaughter's dad is a very wealthy man. I have only one son from a previous marriage. Since her father claimed he already had a college fund for her, since her father told us that, we didn't really save up a college fund for her since she already technically had one. When it was time for our stepdaughter to go to college, she asked her father for the money and he said had lost the money on spending on his multiple mistresses over the years. Our stepdaughter asked for another set of college funds since he already had millions, but he refused. My stepdaughter came to me and my wife, and the only way she would get a college fund is if I split the money from my son's accounts. My wife wants to accept it, but I don't. It wouldn't be fair, and we were led to believe he still had that money, so our son shouldn't be punished for it. My stepdaughter proclaims she hates me and my wife, and in-laws are stating I'm an a-hole who's heartless. They say I don't care about her future. I don't think I should be blamed for this, but her father should be the one getting yelled at. Am I really being cruel here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You were led to believe that she already had a college fund set up for her. You provided a college fund for your child, and you were not obligated to split that/share it with someone else who was supposed to already have one. Your stepdaughter is not an a-hole either. She has a right to be upset over the situation and angry at you though. Your stepdaughter's dad, on the other hand, is the big a-hole for spending his child's college fund that he has told you and your wife he has set up, especially when he's not limited on cash. Soft a-hole for your wife, because she should have set up a separate college fund for her daughter, because it shouldn't fall to a single parent to contribute to the fund regardless of one party having more money. If she hadn't separated from her ex, she likely would have been contributing to it anyway. I disagree. Stepdaughter does not have a right to be mad at Opie, and her anger is misdirected. She should be mad at her dad. Like WTF. Also, the fact her dad has the money but won't spend it on her education, whereas Opie doesn't. They saved for years, and I agree, his son shouldn't have to suffer because her rich dad just doesn't feel like it anymore. My wife would most likely save money for her if they hadn't separated. Not an a-hole. Have your wife check her divorce degree. This is usually defined as part of the divorce. If it indicates that father is responsible, sue for the college fund. Wait, so the dad promised and went back on his word, but she hates you and everybody else blame you? Not an a-hole. I mean, the only one at fault is stepdaughter's father who clearly has the money, but for no reason decided to punish her. But you two as parents also at fault for simply trusting him and not preparing for the worst. Are you telling me that neither of you knew the man well enough to see this coming? Someone clearly didn't learn a lesson during the divorce. I still don't understand why he would spend specifically that money in that account, but the guy apparently has millions anyway. It seems like he never wanted to pay for college in the first place. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my stepson to move rooms when the new baby arrives? My husband has 2 kids, a 17-year-old daughter Cassie and a 10-year-old son Brad. Cassie decided that she would live full-time with her mom when she turned 16, which she could legally do at that age. My husband and his ex-wife share 50-50 custody of Brad, week on, week off. In January of this year, my husband made a decision that he wanted to move to and buy a new house in another city that is 2 hours flight away. This meant that we would have to fly back every second week. We kept an apartment here, when we have custody of Brad as he goes to school in the city we used to live in. Since January, the past 4 months, Brad has spent a total of 5.5 weeks elapsed at our new house over the various school and public holidays. He has stayed 2 weeks in January, half a week in February, half a week in March, and 2 weeks in April. Our new house is 4 bedrooms. The master bedroom which my husband and I share is at the end of a long hallway. Right next to our room is Brad's room for when he comes to visit in the school holidays. Between his room and the next room is a space where we have an office space, desk and chair, set up. The next room is Cassie's room for when she comes to visit in the school holidays. The room next to Cassie's room is a spare room. I'm currently over 5 months pregnant and have suggested that we switch Brad's room to the spare room, or Cassie's room, since she's only been over 2 weeks in the past 4 months and doesn't really care since she doesn't view it as her room, and make Brad's current room the nursery. My husband doesn't want the baby sleeping in the same room as us, even though it's recommended by doctors to reduce the chances of SIDS, which was why I want the baby in the room right next door to us, so at least he will be close. I'm anxious about SIDS. It's my first biological child, and it would make me feel better to know that he is at least next door, so I can run over if anything happens and I can hear him. Brad doesn't want to move rooms, and my husband is agreeing with him, and says the baby should be in the room at the opposite end of the hallway, 3 bedrooms away. He's of the opinion that if SIDS were to happen, there's nothing we can do anyway. We've had a massive argument about it. He thinks making Brad move rooms will make him feel like he's moving down the pecking order, verbatim, and that we don't love him anymore. I just think that the house is more like a holiday house to Brad, as he's only there during the holidays and doesn't view it as his home, and he hasn't spent any great length of time in that room. The benefit of easing my anxiety and lowering the chances of SIDS seems like it's worth asking Brad to switch rooms that he's only spent a few weeks elapsed in. Am I the a-hole? Not an a-hole, but do not do the "it's my first biological kid" thing. It's irrelevant and definitely reinforces the moving down the pecking order thing. The baby needs the room because it's a baby, not because it has your genes. When my baby was born, I really wanted him to used to sleeping in his own crib in his own room right away. So I put our guest bed in the nursery and slept in there for the first 6 months. You are going to be getting up with the baby several times a night for months, and the closer the baby, the less work it all is, and the easier it is for you to get back to sleep. I would 100% recommend putting an extra bed in the nursery, but I'm worried that would signal your husband you are doing all the getting up. You need to have a conversation with your husband now about how much he intends to do the night waking with the baby, because refusing to have the baby in your bedroom combined with being okay with the nursery being hell and gone from your bed looks like he thinks he won't have to be bothered to take his butt down the hall all night long, and he intends to make it your problem. Even if you are breastfeeding, he could get up and change the diaper and bring the baby to you, or walk and soothe the baby when she's awake but not hungry. This dude needs to be prepared to do his share, and it doesn't sound like he's getting ready to. My husband doesn't want the baby sleeping in the same room as us, even though it's recommended by doctors to reduce the chances of SIDS. There's your real problem. I think you should fix that first before asking your stepson to move. I would say the only a-hole is your husband. Though, out of curiosity, what is the size difference between stepson's current room and the room you want him to move into? The room size is exactly the same. His room, Cassie's room, and the spare room are all built the same way. Same size, same wardrobe space, same side of the house. All 3 rooms have a window. He's of the opinion that if SIDS were to happen, there's nothing we can do anyway. Pump the freaking brakes! If my husband had said that to me when I was pregnant, I would have reevaluated our entire relationship. That is such a callous and cruel thing to say about your future child, and patently untrue. Proximity to parents does prevent SIDS, and you're going to need to get up several times a night for feedings. So obviously, the baby should be as close to you as possible. Not today, Hall. And demand your husband attend both parenting classes and couples therapy ASAP.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to wake up my husband when my parents visited and kicking them out when they insisted? I will keep the details as minimal as possible. My husband and I have been married for 5 years now, and we are both 29 years old. For the last 3 weeks, due to a complete screw-up in a department at the company my husband works for, it has been all hands on deck for my husband and his team to resolve the issues. My husband has been working 18-hour days, and on some days, not even coming home, working throughout the entire night and into the next day. I don't know much about the issues exactly, but what I do know is that if they do not resolve them, it will result in a $50 million loss for the company. The issues are not the fault of my husband or anyone on his team, but they are the ones who have to fix them. I can see the exhaustion in my husband's face when he comes in at 2 or 3 in the morning when I happen to be awake and leaves again at 7. I don't know how he's doing it or how he keeps going, but I try my best to keep as much as possible off his plate at home until he can get the issues resolved. Before this, he has been nothing but supportive and helpful around the house. When he comes home, he eats, showers, and goes straight to bed. I have found him some nights literally sleeping at the table while he was trying to eat when I went down to check on him because he wasn't in bed yet, or passed out at the foot of the bed with a shower running and still in his work clothes. 2 nights ago, he got home around midnight, which is late but earlier than usual, and I thought something bad had happened because he looked like a ghost. But through his exhaustion, he gave me this massive smile and said they did it, and everything was done. He told me the boss gave them each a couple of days off, and he only needs to be back in the office next week Tuesday. He ate dinner, took a shower, and got into bed. I got up the next morning around 9 and made breakfast. I thought about waking up my husband, but decided not to, and let him sleep. Around 12, my parents visited me. I normally work from home, and they do visit from time to time, especially since I'm 6 months pregnant. I greeted them and we sat down and had coffee. Around 30 minutes into their visit, they asked where my husband was because they saw his truck in the driveway. I told them he was still sleeping. My mother gave me a look and said, "It's unacceptable for my husband to still be sleeping past 12, especially with a pregnant wife, and that I should wake him up." I told them no and to leave it. And then I explained the full situation of what happened over the last 3 weeks. They didn't budge and insisted I wake my husband up. Apparently, it's not right for him to sleep in with a pregnant wife. It went as far as my mother standing up and saying that if I would not do it, then she would go and wake him up. I stood up and blocked my mother from going up the stairs and told my parents that if they find it so wrong for my husband to get proper sleep after 3 weeks of barely any rest, they should leave our house because I will not, and I refuse to let them wake him up. I told them I would let my husband sleep until he wakes up himself. I will not disturb him, and I will not allow anyone else to disturb him. They asked if I was kicking them out, and I said yes. If they can't respect my request to leave my husband alone and let him sleep, they are no longer welcome. Their whole visit lasted around an hour. Around 3 p.m., I got bombarded with texts from other family members berating me for kicking my parents out of our house, even my sister and brother, telling me I'm the a-hole for doing it. They said my parents were just trying to help. Even after I explained the situation, some family members are still on my parents' side, saying I overreacted by kicking them out because they were only looking out for my safety, seeing as I'm pregnant. Edit. Unfortunately, I have a family that is somewhat close and loves to talk. Secrets don't stay secret in this family for long, especially with my aunts and cousins who can't keep anything to themselves. As soon as they know something, everyone else has to know it too. A bit of extra information I see keeps getting asked. This is my first child. She will also be the first grandchild and the first child born into the family in the last 20 years. Now for the top comments. Someone give this lady a trophy for being an awesome spouse, not the a-hole. This is called being a supportive spouse. I'm here for it. Exactly. This is literally what partnership in a relationship looks like. Your husband is lucky to have you, not the a-hole in any way. Don't forget she's lucky to have him too. He's busting his butt working 18-hour days for his wife and future child. Did it without complaints. All in cleaning up someone else's mistake that he and his team weren't responsible for. That's pretty freaking solid in my book. Trying to help with what? Your husband sleeping and you minding your own business working from home? I would be calling everyone on group call and giving them a piece of my mind. I don't tolerate disrespect like that. It's your home. They came in giving unsolicited opinions, and your relatives would be getting it too for sticking their beaks where they don't belong. You're pregnant, not terminally ill. That was my point as well. It's not like the pregnancy is keeping me from not being able to do anything. Everything is going great with the pregnancy, except feeling like a ball. Other than that, I'm fine. You did the right thing sticking up for your husband. Is this a cultural thing where your parents and family can make demands like this? No, not at all. They didn't have an issue when my husband left for about a week, 2 months back for work or anything. I don't know where any of this suddenly came from. Next story. Am I the a-hole for backing my sister-in-law up and kicking my wife's friend out of the house for holding my niece? My wife and I have been married for 3 years, and my wife, my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, and I all live together. She has 2 kids, a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. My wife and I help her, mostly my wife, since she's at home most of the time. But her friend has been a pain for us. I don't like her. She lives near us and has been friends with my wife for a year. She comes over almost every other day and stays for hours. She's senseless, rude, and talks loudly. We have to remind her almost every time to wash her hands before touching the children. And the worst part? She sometimes shows up drunk. She came over 2 days ago and tried to hold my 5-month-old niece without washing her hands, and on top of that, she was drunk. My sister-in-law got angry and asked her to get out of our house. She said she was sorry and went to wash her hands, but my sister-in-law grabbed her hand and asked her to leave. I had enough of her as well, so I joined in and asked her to leave. She was very angry but didn't say anything and left. Later that night, when I was using my wife's phone, I saw that the friend had texted my wife. She said we were rude and shouldn't have insulted her, and then accused me and my sister-in-law of something going on. When I saw the text, I asked my wife if she still wanted to be friends with this woman after what she said. My wife said she didn't know what I was talking about, so I showed her the message. After reading it, my wife said she never expected her friend to say something like that, and that she was cutting off the friendship. I said it was necessary, because if she didn't cut her off, I would have divorced her. My wife got angry at me for bringing up divorce, and hasn't talked to me since, after yelling at me for half an hour. My sister-in-law says I was wrong for mentioning divorce when it was her friend's fault, not my wife's. Am I the a-hole? Never use the D word unless you want one. Seriously, why the heck would OP even bring up divorce when wife was already agreeing with him? It would be like me telling my husband I don't want our son playing football because it's too dangerous. Husband says I completely agree. And I come back with, well, you better agree or I would divorce you over it. Just straight up alienating your spouse for no reason whatsoever. You're the a-hole. She was dropping the friend. Why did you create drama? Yup, and don't say divorce unless you mean it. There sounds like there is something between you and sister-in-law if you divorce your wife over something so small. Seems like you're prioritizing sister-in-law over wife a bit. This post reeks of missing reasons. I feel like OP will say in the comments his wife can't have kids, so he sees himself as the kid's dad, or just straight up doesn't like his wife. Small? You are crazy, bro. It's a grave accusation. And yes, I'm currently prioritizing my sister-in-law over my wife because she's recovering from childbirth. And I am not a dad to my nephew or my niece. I'm their uncle. Alright, I guess I am wrong for throwing divorce on her face, but I was angry. I was so damn angry. Because not only she's accusing me of infidelity, she's accusing our family as a whole like we practice infidelity in our own family. If something like this were to happen to you, wouldn't you get angry? And why the heck is my wife was friends with someone like her anyway? But I was angry. I was so damn angry. Yeah, we got that. Are you an actual adult? Get it together, man. And go apologize to your wife. And why the heck is my wife was friends with someone like her anyway? She's not anymore. Good freaking lord, dude. You have a lot of work to do to manage your anger in order to grow into an actual man versus whatever it is you are right now. You're still not over this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for showing up to my boyfriend's surprise birthday party, even though his girl best friend didn't invite me? I, 27 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 28 male, for about a year. Everything's been good overall, except there's always been this one weird dynamic. His extremely close girl best friend, Tina. They've known each other forever and claim it's totally platonic. I've always tried to be cool about it, made an effort, invited her out, etc. Anyway, his birthday was last weekend. I had no idea anything was happening until his roommate texted me asking if I was coming to a certain bar that night. I had no clue what he was talking about, and he was shocked I didn't know it was a surprise party that Tina had planned. So I show up, alone obviously, and Tina looks genuinely surprised to see me. She literally said, "Oh, I didn't know roommate told you." No apology, no oops, nothing. I stayed, mostly to avoid drama on my boyfriend's birthday, but the whole thing was awkward. I sat off to the side with some random cousin, while Tina gave a whole speech about how no one understands him like she does. Cool. Later I brought it up to my boyfriend and he said it wasn't that deep and that maybe she just assumed he had told me. But it's his surprise party. Wouldn't you assume your girlfriend should be there? Now I'm wondering if I should have just left the second I found out I wasn't actually invited. I feel weirdly guilty, but also humiliated. Am I the a-hole for showing up and making it known I wasn't originally included? Or was that fair game since, I'm literally his girlfriend? Now for the top comments. No girl, something seems really fishy about her, and your boyfriend being so nonchalant about it is also really weird. You're his girlfriend, weren't invited to a surprise party by the person organizing it. It's definitely on purpose, and the way she is acting, the whole "I'm the only one who understands him" is kinda all really weird. I'm just getting some bad vibes. I think more discussion needs to be had with you and your boyfriend, but I'd definitely keep an eye on her cause she seems really off to me. This whole situation is weird. It's clear she intended for you not to be there at your own boyfriend's birthday party. You are not the a-hole girl. She definitely is though, and I'd mention that more to your boyfriend and about how she was acting. Especially if the behavior does concern you, you should make your feelings heard. Agreed. Something fishy is definitely going on there. Your boyfriend should have your back and should have understood how it was wrong of her not to invite you. There's nothing fishy about it. Tina is a witch and needs to grow up. In fact, so does the boyfriend. Yes, but boyfriend isn't stopping it, probably because he likes this kind of attention. Either way, OP isn't the a-hole, but the other two? Just yuck. He's gaslighting and disrespecting you. Let Tina keep him. Break up with him. Tell him it's not that deep. Not the a-hole. Right? That "it's not that deep" line rubbed me the wrong way too. Like, I'm your girlfriend. How am I the only one who didn't know? It feels dismissive, and honestly, the more I replay it all in my head, the more off it feels. Might be time to rethink things for real. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to bring my boyfriend to family events until he learns how to read the room? So, I, 26 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 28 male, for almost a year. He's kind, smart, funny, and I do love him. But there's one issue that's becoming kind of exhausting. He has no idea how to read a room, like zero social awareness sometimes. The first time I really noticed it was at my cousin's engagement party. Everyone was dressed semi-formal, soft music, people mingling, pretty chill vibe. He showed up, late by the way, blasting music from his car. Came in wearing a graphic tee that said something wildly inappropriate. I won't repeat it here, but it was something you'd see on a gag gift. And proceeded to dominate every conversation with unrelated jokes and stories. My dad straight up asked me, "Is he okay?" I tried to let it slide, but it keeps happening. At my sister's birthday dinner, he loudly told a story about someone crapping their pants in a Target while we were waiting for dessert. At a family barbecue, he kept pushing my uncle to just admit he used to do drugs in the 80s. No matter how many subtle signals I give, like tapping his leg under the table, changing the subject, or even texting him to tone it down, he either doesn't pick up on it or brushes it off. I've tried to gently talk to him about it. His response is always something like, "That's just who I am," or "Your family's too uptight." But I don't think asking someone not to bring up bodily functions over dinner is being uptight. So now I've started declining invites to family stuff unless I go alone. My mom has asked a few times why he's not coming anymore, and I just say he's busy. But the truth is, I'm embarrassed and kind of tired of feeling like I'm babysitting him in social situations. He recently got annoyed and said I'm ashamed of him, and that it's hurtful I don't bring him around. I told him I'm not ashamed of him, but I am uncomfortable with how he acts around my family. Now he's being cold and passive-aggressive. So, am I the a-hole for not bringing my boyfriend to family events until he learns some basic social awareness? I guarantee he can read the room in court. I guarantee he can read the room in church. I guarantee he can read the room at work. I guarantee he can read the room in front of the elderly on the street. He feels insecure, and he is acting like a funny guy who can't read the room because he's immature and doesn't know how to manage his feelings of inadequacy. If you want to spend your precious 20s trying to fix him, fine, but you need to know the truth. He's doing this for reasons, not because he's unaware. Ladies, stop trying to fix men. I promise you, this dude isn't great in your relationship either. He's not this great guy you want us all to believe, and you might also think he is. He's a douche, and if you really step back and look at your relationship, you will see him for what he is, not worth your time. He considers his behavior a part of his personality, which means that you're not going to get him to change. Do you really want a man-child that embarrasses you for the rest of your life? If he cared about your feelings, then he would change his actions instead of doubling down. You have to ask yourself if you can live with that forever. Not the a-hole, but you are way too understanding. He considers his feelings more important than yours, and he'd do the same as your +1 at your work events, and to your children. He's acting like a child. Do you enjoy being his mama? Oh God, yes. Can you imagine how he will act towards any children he might have? Shudder. He will purposely embarrass his kids in front of others, and they will grow up hating him. And if OP marries him and reproduces with him, her kids should hate her too, for knowing this and purposefully subjecting them to him.